I couldn't quite understand how we'd been together for 33 years and she could act like that. I couldn't wrap my head around how she just didn't want to work on it. Everything seemed like it was just moving so fast, and I couldn't control it. I couldn't slow it down.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest part to deal with at first for me. And then when I started listening to the program, and the text message stuff was huge. She's went now from, I can't hardly even text her anymore. She just picks up the phone and calls me. She answers the call every time I call. It's a complete turnaround.
Yeah.
But I would have never, ever gotten that without.
You just got to be coachable.
For those of you that don't already know who I am, my name is Denver Griffin, and I help men restore their marriages and rebuild their life, even when their wife has no interest in reconciling or being on the same page with their husband. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, you need to subscribe to the channel right now. If you're facing an unwanted divorce or separation, subscribe to the channel and push the bell button notification, because with this week, we're putting out from now on 3 videos a week. A lot of you could be 1 video away from hearing exactly what you need to start turning your life around, turning your relationship around. So Rex, whenever you found DivorceStoppers, you found me, you booked a call with me or my team. Where were you at when you found us? What were you looking for? How did you end up finding us?
I was completely lost. I was definitely at the lowest point in my life, for sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
You were having thoughts like that along those lines?
Oh, absolutely. And it was impossible to think about anything else.
You're in a place right now where your happiness is not contingent upon your marriage, which coincidentally is one of the things that makes you more attractive to any female, including in a failed marriage. A lot of times I get students that are already went through a legal divorce, and when they get to the place where they're in those emotions of, can I actually have what I want to accomplish here with this relationship? That almost is never going to happen until you no longer need it. Because what that does, it takes the responsibility off of other people for your happiness, for your livelihood. You know, you're already in a place where you're acknowledging that you don't need another person to have the life that you want, to fulfill the reason that God has put you here on the earth, makes you actually attractive to the other person. With that being said, how did you end up finding us?
I did a bit of a deep dive as far as the internet goes, and YouTube, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You were my third call, actually, and I just didn't get good vibes from the other two. I know you know who they are. I've heard you mention.
Who is it?
Josh. I forget the name of the deal, but I know the guy's name is Josh. That was probably my second choice. The first one was, you were only in the program for a year, and I thought, I didn't like the idea of, it just felt like here today, gone tomorrow. We'll help you as much as we can in this amount of time, and get the hell out of it.
I get a lot of students from Josh Hudson that have already done that program.
That Josh Hudson.
Okay, got you. And so when you did that, what was it about that wasn't working for you in your eyes, or didn't make sense for you?
Well, I had listened to you and your wife once, and that just kind of hit home with me. It sounded a lot like what I was dealing with, more so than it just kind of hit home with me. I wanted to. It wasn't the money as much as it was, I wanted to give my marriage the best shot I could, and so. Yeah. At first, I looked at counselors. I looked at all sorts of stuff, and I thought, man, this just doesn't work for me as far as their numbers are embarrassing, honestly. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to spend that kind of money and that kind of time on something that works less than half the time. So
yeah, makes sense.
So then I started looking at programs like you and that Josh Hudson, stuff like that. And then there was another one that I had a phone call with, a guy and a lady. They were a little bit older. I don't remember what the name of that one was, but I just remember that was the one that you were in it for about a year, and then they just kind of turn you loose, sound like. And I thought, well,
gotcha.
It just didn't sound like something that, it just didn't sound as good, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's a common theme. I think typically, as of the date of this recording, so we're recording this at the end of September in 2025. And as of the date of this recording, we started out all of this with couples, and then eventually went to men, and we're about to reopen the door to couples again. but we started this back in, I believe, late 2014 or early 2015. One of the things that makes us so far different from anybody else that's out there is I don't have an advertising agency where I'm not running paid ads, where my YouTube channel or my TikTok or any of the testimonials that we put out or even teaching that I put out so far as of to date, I've never actually paid for a paid ad. Not that I think there's anything wrong with somebody advertising their business. I run a business. This is a business, and it's actually on our goals to start running paid ads to reach more people. But I think what's different about that is that a lot of times when you have paid ads, if whatever advertising agency or person that is, preparing those ads, if they don't set the audience up right, those ads reach people that is not a good fit for those programs. I'll give you an example. I just saw a diabetic commercial. I don't watch TV that much, but I literally was just watching TV this morning with my wife. I don't have diabetes, but it was talking about all the benefits. I'm like, wow, that sounds like that would be beneficial to me. But then they're like, well, it's, for diabetics. I'm like, oh, well, it probably would be harmful to me. I'm not a diabetic. But that's kind of what paid ads do if you have somebody that's running those ads and they don't know what they're doing. I used to own an advertising agency, so I really understand that. And I think that's why as of today, 50% of my students actually go through other programs, because those programs that are running paid ads, those ads find the student, and those ads may not necessarily be reflective of the actual program or the teaching. What you're sharing with me is what I hear a lot. I hear a lot of students tell me two things. One of the things is I feel like something just told me to do this. I get that a lot. And for me, that's part of the spice. I actually think it's God, because everything I do with the teaching of this is, for me as a Christian, is I'm doing this for the Lord. And because it's my anointing and my calling, and the way that I've been qualified to do this is, yes, I took a lot of psychology classes in school, but that's not where the experience comes from of what I do in the program. The experience comes through because I was the first student in this version of the program. I was facing an unwanted divorce. I had an ex-wife and I was about to have two ex-wives. My wife didn't want to work on it, and I took the steps to get out of having thoughts of checking out, because it was overwhelming me at that point, because I was in a place where I was hopeless. I was broke. My health was poor. I was losing weight. I was in a very, very unhealthy emotional state. I would say I was probably even in a bad spiritual state, but I was praying, but I just wasn't seeing my prayers answered because I wasn't exercising my faith. And because I didn't know how to practically do that. And so what you're confirming to me is that when you booked a call with us, the reason it made sense was because there was some similarities of what I had been through and what I'm teaching where you were at. And not only that, but more importantly, where you wanted to go with your life and your marriage. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. If I'm paraphrasing your words correctly, if I'm not, tell me to shut the hell up and say, no, you got it all wrong.
You got it right, for sure.
But, I think the reason, I get a lot of people is offended by my YouTube channel. And the reason for that is because I cut through the bullshit. I don't care how it sounds. I don't care if it's pretty. I've been through it. And the people that are currently in the shoes that I was in, I remember what it was like to be there. I remember what it was like to be so hopeless that you really feel like you have no place to turn but just to give up. And until somebody gives you a reason to have hope, well, what gives somebody a reason to have hope? To show, hey, I was there and I actually took the boat where you want to go with my life and my relationship. Not just with my wife, but with my entire family. And it's possible, but you got to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You've already started that process. Like you're knee deep in those waters, which has caused you to tell yourself, I don't have to have my relationship anymore to be happy, to have a good life. Coincidentally, that's what it takes to actually have the relationship restored and to have the life that you want, because it takes the pressure off of her, right? You're responsible for your own happiness. That's a healthy place to be. You know what I mean? And I love that you're experiencing that, because I can see it in your face. I went back and kind of looked at some calls with you, and I'm like, the man that's showing up today compared to the man we met you, that man, at least the first version of him, he's dead. He is dead. We killed him. We killed him, but guess what? You've been reborn. And I have a feeling you're going to be reborn again before we're done with you. But
So-
would you agree with that assessment?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of things happening right now and I don't know that I would have ever ventured off that, I'm starting another business as soon as we can. I'm going to quit my job. She was always, she wanted the stability, the insurance, and that was just never me. I thought, well, if we make enough money, I can buy you insurance. So we don't need to do this, but
Yeah.
keep the peace, make her happy, and I thought that was stupid on my part, honestly. And so anyway, I'm doing me, and if that's just what's going to happen. That's
I love that.
we'll be happy.
Let me ask you the question. So right now we got a lot of men watching this call, and when they hear you say "doing me," that sounds attractive. But would you agree that the way that I'm teaching men to do them, which I think is a masculine trait, because a man that's on a mission, a man that has a vision, that man is going to be a happy man because he's looking forward. He's looking forward. So many men are watching this call right now, and they're not looking forward. They're looking back. They're looking at right now, and that's the reason they're about to give up hope. They don't know what else to do. They don't. It's not because they have been weakened down by society and the culture and lies and pride to the point that they're blinded on how do I even look forward? Would you say that's where you were at? Because that's where I was at.
Absolutely. Yes.
Would you agree that now that you have a vision where you are starting a new business, you're going to change careers, you're going to step into your anointing, you're going to step into your calling, you have the boldness and the faith and the belief in yourself, also knowing that inside as a student, you're always going to have the support of the other winners. That's why we call our support group Iron Sharpens Iron. It's winners helping other winners win. I don't know if you are currently in, but there's a lot of Facebook groups that I joined way many years ago when I was going through this, and they all still exist. And it was some good-hearted people, but it was communities of men and sometimes women where they were in failed relationships. They were saying, I'm standing for my marriage. But if you really step back and assess that from a bird's eye view, it was mostly losers helping losers feel good about losing. And I don't mean that like, look at those losers. I mean, everybody was hopeless and they were telling each other, man, I'm praying for you, hang in there. But nobody was actually succeeding. It was a rare, if ever happened, where you would see somebody share a win. Like, I'm accomplishing something. I'm getting a vision. I am restoring relationships. I'm changing. I'm transforming. I'm moving forward. And I'm doing that without bitterness. I'm responsible for my happiness, which coincidentally, eventually, with enough time and doing it the right way, makes you more attractive. Would you share your bird's eye view of our support group? We don't really talk about that much on these videos. The Iron Sharpens Iron, that's an added resource for all of my students. Would you describe that group the way I would, as winners helping winners win by sharing their daily wins? It's not losers helping losers feel good about. Matter of fact, if somebody tries to post some losing crap, so as a man thinketh is he, and we just don't tolerate that. We only tolerate wins. And if you're in a place where you're not having them when you should be, you're required to have wins. How do we guarantee you have wins? You get on a coaching call if you get stuck.
Yeah, I had to
Share
stop
what
listening to some of those programs because they got me down. The Iron Sharpen Irons. I've become pretty good friends with a few of the guys in there, and that's been great. That's been really good. But I saw that you were on a couple of those deals, and those other sites, and I kind of checked them out for a little bit, but I had to kind of quit doing that because it kind of got me down.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't even know I was still in some of those sites. I know I joined some of those many, 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 many years ago. I don't even know how to check to see if I'm still in those, but that's interesting. We should probably go up there and try to recruit some people out because I know you see a lot of desperate people. So Let me ask you this. Tell me all of the things that you did personally that wasn't working for you.
At first, I couldn't understand. I couldn't wrap my head around how she could, it felt personal, and it felt like I couldn't wrap my head around how she just didn't want to work on it. It really felt like she just taken a bat and just went to beat. No, It
Yeah.
was felt really personal, really just brutal. Couldn't quite understand how we'd been together for 33 years and she could just act like that. So, hey, let's, can you please just think about this a little bit? What are we doing? And they're just making it worse. Instead of a solution to the problem, I tried to fix the problem itself or what I perceived to be the problem itself. Which was not,
Working on the problem will never work because the problem is never the problem. It's never the problem. And like Denver, that doesn't make sense. Well, is what you're doing to change your life and restoring your relationship, is it backfiring or is it working? And so what I'm saying does make sense, even though it sounds the opposite of what the world is teaching. It's even the opposite of what I learned as a psychology student in school. It's the opposite of what my professors taught me. Now, if it was dealing with an eating disorder or something, what I was taught in school in psychology was spot on. But when it comes to relationships, what I was taught in school is the opposite of what works. The opposite of what works. That is the reason that if you go to a marriage counselor, the statistical odds of your marriage being restored in a counseling session, it literally will speed up and almost guarantee that you get a divorce if this exists. If the wife wants out of the marriage and the husband wants to save it and you go to counseling, you can put money that you're going to get a divorce. Almost 100% likelihood that you're going to get a divorce. And that counselor, if they're at least 3 weeks into counseling, fresh out of college, they have determined in their subconscious that they're not a marriage counselor, that they're an amicable divorce counselor. Because they know none of their clients are going to stay married when one person wants out and the other person wants to keep it. Why? Because how they're trained to go about it is to talk about the problems, to work through the problems, and all that does, it's going to give you more problems. It does not work. It does not work. It's the opposite of what makes sense. So the problem is never the problem, and working on the problem is just going to give you more problems, 100%. If that's you and you're listening to this video, put that in the comments if you've already tried working on the problems, and share with us why that didn't work according to your eyes. And make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm going to keep talking about this week. Also, in a few minutes, I'm going to give you a free resource if that's where you're at. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and give that to you now. If you've worked on the problem and you're in a place right now where you think you're having thoughts of checking out because you're hopeless, like you've lost 40 pounds, you've given up on life, you've tried to restore your long-term relationship or your marriage, and you're at a place where you're just feeling at the lowest place that you've ever been in your life, I'm going to give you a free resource right now. My video lecture is putting a QR code on the screen where you can scan that QR code, and it's phase 1. It's called our free marriage U-turn masterclass. I'm going to teach that 9 more times live this week. And what I want you to do right now, if you're watching this video and that's you, put that in the comments, but also pause the video after you put that in the comments. Either scan the QR code or go to the link that's in the description of this video, and it's also in the comments of this video, pinned to the top, and register for a seat for that free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass. It's no charge, but in that free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass, I'm going to tell you that if this is where you're at, you're dealing with confirmation bias, and you'll never navigate the waters in time if you don't understand how do I deal with psychological confirmation bias. And I talk about that in detail in the free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass. If you've already registered for the free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass, my video editor is now putting a QR code on the screen. This is the 9th time I've started doing this recently, and I'm going to be doing this for the next 2 weeks. Scan this QR code to book a strategy session call with us. And so, yes, I know your masterclass is coming up in the next day or so. So I want you to do that, but go ahead and book a strategy session call with us. If you know that you're facing an unwanted divorce or a marriage, go ahead and get that call booked before the spots run out because we only have so many openings each week. On that strategy session call, we're going to walk you through is your unique circumstances where you're at in your relationship or your marriage. Is there a path forward to turn that train around and to do that quickly? And we'll discover that on that strategy session call. So you can scan this QR code right now to do that. Or you can also go to the description of the video or the comments and click the link that says book a call with us. So Rex, looking at where you're at today, for you, what was the turning point where you said, I got to do something, where you finally said enough is enough, I've got to change? Where would you be today emotionally, spiritually, and financially if I'd never met you? What was that decision to change, and what was the change that's happened so far?
It's been huge, actually. I don't know that I would have had the, to start another business, to do some of the stuff that, it's just, the whole thing has just been a 180.
I would call it vision. You have a vision that's different before you met us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So dig deeper on that. For you, how have you had a transformation up here about the vision for your life?
It actually looks like I have one. It was pretty dismal, honestly. It was pathetic, actually. It really was. I didn't have a good outlook. I didn't have, nobody wants to be around somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough.
What was your breaking point? So when you were going through that season of not having a vision, where things were rough, having thoughts about checking out because you were hopeless, and I don't know, but for me, you sound like you were also in the lowest spot you'd ever been in your lifetime. You can confirm that, yes or no. But what was the lowest point that you went to, and what was the moment where you said, I'm going to do something different? Like, this is not working for me. And you said, I'm going to make a change, that ultimately led you to find us and book a call with us, along with some other people that you did, went through those programs or looked at those things.
Well, you call it spice, but honestly, I started looking at, the one thing that really resonates with me is, if someone else doesn't want to be with you, she's not going to want to be there either, and that was a huge thing for me.
Yeah. And it sounds like the new you've positioned yourself where you like to be around you.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So the purpose of these videos, which probably is the reason that you wanted to come do one of these videos with me, we call them client success shares, is imagine right now, and this is the reason that we do these videos. I'm thinking about myself. Several years ago, I was in that place. And today there's a lot of men right now watching this video. They're in the place that you were. They're in the place that I was. They're hopeless. They've lost weight. They've given up on life. They have no gumption. They have no vision. This is the lowest point in their life. They're addicted to the bed. They're addicted to the sofa. Their performance at work is going to hell. They might even be in trouble at work. Or if they own their business, the business is suffering. The employees are upset. They're angry. Every single person that will talk to them, they want to talk about what their wife is doing to destroy their life or their long-term relationship, their baby mama, whatever. They're in a really bad, unhealthy place. They're aligning their actions with their feelings, thinking that this might work, this might work. They're stalking their wife on social media. They're trying to figure out how to read her text messages, wondering who she's talking to, wondering what she's doing. They're looking at the cameras. They're actually talking to these morons on Facebook that get in these marriage restoration groups, these bots that say, we can spy on any phone for $14.95 or whatever. They're putting their credit card and getting scammed to do all that bullshit, but they're in a bad place. What would you say to that guy? So the purpose of doing these calls is we have a program called DivorceStoppers. And one of the things that we do on the strategy session calls, my editor's putting the QR code on the screen again for that, to book a strategy session call is to say, is there a reason to have hope? Is your life, is your marriage, is your relationship, is all of that so far gone that there is no comeback from that? And, maybe that's the case. I have a friend on YouTube. Her name is Rachel Sloan. If you got divorced and you don't want the marriage restored, maybe you realize that your wife is an addict, an alcoholic, and she doesn't want help. She's never going to get help. Maybe you've decided if that's you and you want to move on, you should start checking out some of her content because she helps men. But on the other side of that, I would say that even if that's where you're at and your goal is not to restore your marriage and you just want to get your life back on track, the way that I help men restore their marriages does both at the same time. I mean, you see a lot of your brothers sharing, I'm back with my wife. I'm having this win. Look at us. We're on a date. Look at us. We just made love for the first time in 6 months or 2 years. Look at us. We're talking again. I can't believe this worked. Well, how does all of that happen? Because I teach you how to get your life back on track and to see value in other people, which contributes to you walking in your vision. For you, the man that is thinking about checking out, he's in such a bad place. What advice would you give that guy? And particularly concerning what we're doing here in our paid version of the program, even that free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass that everybody watching this video is already registered for, what would you tell that guy how this could be the best option for him? Because you're one of those guys that shopped and did all the other things before this because you responded to the paid advertising possibly that found you before you found us. What would you say to that guy? And why would you tell him that?
Slow down. Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
Everything seemed to be in hyperdrive at that point in my life. Everything was an emergency, and that's the biggest thing that I got from you the first call or two was, slow down. Just slow down. Try to calm yourself down a little bit. And everything seemed like it was just moving so fast, and I couldn't control it. I couldn't slow it down.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest part to deal with at first for me. And then when I started listening to the program and the text message stuff was huge. She's went now from I can't hardly even text her anymore. She just picks up the phone and calls me. With I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Didn't seem so bad. So she answers the call every time I call. She answers the phone every time I call. It's a complete turnaround. But I would have never, ever gotten that without starting this program due to, that text message stuff was huge. That really started, and that nothing happens fast. I was always looking for some magic word. What can I say to her? It just turn this around right now. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not. The whole process. There's definitely it works. It really works. I still had my doubts. I'll be honest. I still had my doubts right up until the text message stuff. And when that started, I thought, wow, there is definitely something to this. Then we started just communicating different. I started putting a lot less pressure on her. And then I went a little further and, she used to drive quite a bit when we'd go somewhere and stuff. So now no, you're not driving. It's just, that was unmanly in my opinion. And there was a lot of stuff that needed to change.
Let me tell you, so I was the first student myself in this version of the program. I was, in the way that it's being taught now, I was the first student. And the way for me that I would describe it basically is the same thing you're describing. But the way that I understood it was I kept thinking of that song, Amazing Grace. And I'm not even looking at that from a religious perspective. I'm looking at that like before I walked through this journey to do what you've done and what you're still doing is I really was blind. I didn't even have the eyes to see my wife. Like I had a good heart, I had good intentions, but you don't know what you don't know. If you're watching this video right now and you're doing no contact and you've listened to some idiot telling you that no contact with your wife or no contact with your long-term relationship partner, that's going to, restore the relationship, that is absolutely ludicrous. There is literally Facebook. I might be in these groups too. I don't know if I am. I don't ever check those groups anymore, but there's groups out there where, I don't know, several years ago, I was in one of these groups just seeing what was going on. And it was called the No Contact Group. And I would see posts in there and it would say, I hadn't seen my lover, my wife, my girlfriend of 20 years. I haven't seen her in 6 months. And I saw her, I still remember this post. I saw her at Home Depot today and she lit up like she wanted to talk to me. It was so difficult for me to turn and go the other way. And I'm like, what the hell? That is so, how is that going to restore the relationship? So no contact does not restore a relationship. Now, I'm listening to what you're saying and you're talking about, you got to slow down to speed up, but slowing down to speed up, actually, it really does speed it up. I get a lot of people, they haven't known how to communicate with their spouse in 20 damn years, right? Which is what led to this happening overnight, right? It didn't really happen in 33 years. It happened in 1 week. What the hell? I didn't see this coming. That's where I was, right? I thought it happened overnight. I couldn't believe she left. But how do you change that around? I would actually say that for all new students, the goal that I teach is you literally can turn the train around with one text message. I didn't say you're moving back in and you're having soulmate, multiple orgasm, passionate lovemaking sessions with one text message, but you can put the brakes on, click it in reverse, and start going back the other way where it starts being fun again. Where instead of you being that guy, put in the comments if you are watching this video and you're listening to what Rex is saying and you're realizing, holy shit, I didn't realize I was putting her in a pressure cooker. I was putting the pressure on, and she had to go with what we call enemies of the marriage to let off that steam. And so now what Rex is actually saying, whether he knows he's saying it or not, is I have taught him how to be a professional communicator because we have psychological powerhouse communication training. And it helps you see, hear, and value the other person in a way that I have never had a student that did it before they joined the program, because it's not normal the way I'm teaching you to communicate, but it's so beneficial, and it can actually speed up and make the relationship fun again. It can open doors to communication that's not just full of anger and strife and heartache. And you can literally do that in as little as 7 days. You can turn the train completely around. So what does it mean to turn the train around? She starts calling you. It's not about an argument. She feels heard, valued, and seen because I teach you how to see, hear, and value her, and then convey that via text message. That leads to phone calls. That leads to amicable communication, which leads her to, how many right now, put this in the comments, if you just knew that you knew that you knew, if your wife or your girlfriend of a long term, your baby mama, if you knew that if she actually could truly see your heart, everything can turn around. And put in the comments right now, if you haven't felt like she's seeing you. See, one of the reasons we get hopeless and depressed and sometimes suicidal is because the person that we love more than anything in the world, they don't see us. And that's all we can focus on. But what we're not realizing is the way to get her to see us is to start seeing her. And seeing her through the eyes that you might have right now, where you're in a place where it's the worst place in your entire life, you got to have new eyes. Like that song. Rex is literally describing the song Amazing Grace. I was blind, but now I see. And once Rex started seeing through communication via text message, okay, now his wife is calling him. So let me paraphrase what that means. Now she's starting to see him too. She's starting to see there is something good in him. There is something that's worthy of a phone call. What Rex has done through communication, he's put a higher price tag on himself. He sees more value in himself, because the way that I teach students how to see other people, it also teaches them how to see a different version of themselves in the mirror. Would you say all of that spot on, Rex, or you think I'm full of bullshit?
So absolutely right.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you would agree with that, and it would be okay if you didn't, but that is my goal, is to cut through the bullshit and to do what actually works and to do it the fastest way possible. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Rex, what else has changed for you as you've walked this walk that might be something that was unexpected that you didn't even know that you wanted, if there is anything like that?
There is. I've started looking at this other business and some opportunities that way that I wouldn't have looked at before. My outlook on everything it's exciting, honestly. I'm happy with the direction that I'm headed finally. And just like I said before, if somebody else wouldn't be happy with you, she's not going to be either. And I really do think that that's been huge for us.
Yeah. Yeah. You've literally become more attractive. You've increased in your spice. For anybody who heard spice earlier, here's what that stands for. It stands for the areas where you can increase in your attractiveness to your creator, to yourself, and to other people. How do you smell to your creator? How do you smell to your spouse, to your baby mama, to your long-term relationship lover? How do you smell to other people, your coworkers, your colleagues, your employer? How do you smell to yourself? Spice. What aroma are you giving off? Denver, what the hell are you talking about? I told you guys I cut through the bullshit. What does spice mean? Increase in your spiritual attractiveness, your physical attractiveness, your intellectual attractiveness, your character attractiveness, and your emotional attractiveness. The art of being taught how to artfully communicate accomplishes an increase of attractiveness in every single one of those areas. So what I mean by that, step 1 in the Divorce Stoppers program literally is teaching communication. It's the first step in the program. That immediately makes the aroma that you're giving off better. So if you're a man and you're listening to this and you're like, wow, this is something that is literally what I've been praying for God to send me, I'm going to tell you a couple of free resources that you have right now. The QR code on my left is the free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass. Register for a seat for that live teaching this week while there's seats available, okay? If there's no seats available, check back tomorrow or the next day. Each day that the calendar, we add a new day, we'll open up some spots, might be next week for you get it. And if you know that you have a need for speed and you want to actually explore, is my circumstances even salvageable? Can I turn my life around? Can I increase in my spice? Is it too late for me? Have I already had game over? Even if you've been through a divorce, I have so many students that have legally got divorced and they remarried their ex-wife. As long as she's not remarried, scan the QR code on the other side of the screen or go to the links in the descriptions and book a strategy session call with us today. If that's where you're at, make sure you've subscribed to the channel, hit the bell notification. But also, if you're wondering what is confirmation bias that Denver mentioned earlier in the video, watch the video that my editor is putting up right now.